nice to see you, Ryan Hinkamper.
Nice to see you, Frankie.
I'm used to speaking into a microphone. I almost feel like I should just get the microphone and put up to my...
I can see why people do stuff with their hands when they talk.
Oh, speaking of doing something with your hands, which politician from California am I imitating? So what we're doing is...
Gavin Newsom.
we've got... You didn't even let me do it.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is going to be LA 2.0. And what we're doing is we're kind of visualizing how we're going to kind of come together, and we're kind of like, what's up? Gavin Newsom, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yep.
he's my favorite politician.
I knew where that was going as soon as you said it.
He's my favorite. he's like the when you're watching cartoons, and the cartoon's kind of boring, but it needs an enemy. And it's got the bad guy, and the bad guy is really prolific and is like really coming after Mickey Mouse.
Yep.
And Mickey Mouse is like, hey, don't hurt me. But then the bad guy comes in, you're like, oh, you need a bad guy?
Yep.
That's why we need Gavin Newsom. But, all right, so this edition of Frankie Say,
Yep.
got my good friend Ryan Hinkamper.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How many times have you been on this pod?
On yours, this is second or third time, I think. I've been in this room for a multitude of reasons, but for yours specifically, this might be, I don't know if it's the second or third.
I think it's third.
Yeah.
And I know you've been in the studio here, so you feel kind of at home.
This is home 2.0, right?
This is where you spend your time.
Yeah, right.
We're not family and work.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we were kind of wanting to talk about is crypto. So fair warning to all of the listeners who do not like to hear about what the future holds in finance. I do not claim to be a digital asset expert. I know you are an IT expert.
Yep.
But I'm not an IT expert either. But I do kind of want to touch on this. Obviously, we're kind of making fun of Gavin Newsom for a second. I want to touch on a little bit about those drones in New Jersey.
Yep.
I want to touch on Doge, not necessarily Dogecoin, but the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yep.
I know that we're coming up on January 20th, which that's a very, very, very important day for America, when a certain University of Notre Dame football team plays Ohio State.
Yeah.
So obviously,
When was the last time they were a national champion?
I want to say 2013. Wait, you're talking about Notre Dame?
Notre Dame, yeah.
I thought it was 2013, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
If Matt Schuckman was here, he would let us know when it was.
We're gonna get shot for not knowing this, I think.
We're gonna get in big trouble for not knowing it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 2013.
Okay. I'll go with that.
Yeah, BCS championship, and I don't think they won, but they're gonna win this time because Ohio State's no good, and they can't run an offense. I'm just kidding. I'm really scared that Ohio State's gonna win, but we'll see what happens.
Any given Tuesday or whatever day of the week that is.
Right. Well, anyway, glad to have you on here. I want to jump right into digital assets.
Yeah.
So, can we talk about this? Obviously, you and I talk a lot about this behind the scenes because the future is kind of smacking us around in the face. And we were talking with Aspen in the green room for a solid 30 minutes. 30, 40 minutes we were talking to Aspen about digital assets. I don't want to say the C word yet, which the C word is cryptocurrency. But that's kind of a scary word. Do you think that cryptocurrency, when Quincy people, Macomb, Hannibal people listen to these pods, the tri-state area listens, do you think that people still think it's a Ponzi scheme? It's not real.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
funny internet money.
Absolutely. I meet people all the time that think it's a big scam. Like walked into a board meeting just probably about a month ago and mentioned something about it when a particular coin that I follow was doing really well on a certain day, and there was 2 or 3 people in the room that were like, I don't believe in any of that. Like, I think it's a big scam. So,
well,
that's all they really think about it. It's a financial market disruptor is what it is.
So the banks don't like it.
No. Well, they're warming up to it now. Like BlackRock's buying big time into it now, and they kind of drive a lot of markets. So,
well, let's talk about that let's talk about that article that you sent me about J.P. Morgan.
Yep.
So J.P. Morgan Chase, the CEO, is a guy that I used to listen to constantly when trading currency at a hedge fund, when I traded currency downtown Chicago for a number of years. When Jamie Dimon would say something, he would move markets. And just by him opening up his mouth, he could change the price of an asset.
Yep.
He still does that. He has enormous amounts of power, and he does not like Bitcoin, but he likes this other digital asset called
XRP.
Okay. And Aspen, you had kind of asked us to describe acronyms as we were kind of going along. I was trying to figure out.
Well, XRP is the digital token or the coin or the crypto asset that runs, which was minted by Ripple. So it runs on RippleNet. So RippleNet is what XRP is transacted on. But XRP is the actual coin or the currency, if you will. So.
And Ripple is an American company.
Yep.
I think in San Francisco, somewhere in California.
Correct.
And XRP is a digital asset.
Correct.
And if you look this up right now, to Aspen's point, what does XRP stand for? It's something Ripple protocol. And I don't know what the X means.
I should know.
I did know it sometime, but the point is, so you and I have been looking at digital assets for a long time. In the green room, you were kind of telling me about how when you were a much younger fella, you got a...
We don't have to talk about that.
Well, you opened up some kind of digital wallet.
Yep.
You opened up something early on.
Yeah, I opened up a digital wallet in 2008 and failed to, after jumping through all the hoops, to create a digital wallet to buy Bitcoin, which was incredibly difficult to do in 2008. I failed to buy any Bitcoin, long story short. When it shot up in whatever year I think we decided on, 2015, 13, I don't know, when it shot to $16,000 of Bitcoin, I feverishly looked back through my documents and pulled my recovery phrases out to recover my wallet because I'd forgotten about it, just to see if I put $10 or $15 in. And it was a zero balance when I got logged in.
So if you would have put $10 to $15 in that wallet of Bitcoin specifically, the price of Bitcoin, you're talking about you had the chance to buy Bitcoin when it was
less than a penny.
Less than a penny.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin used to be worth 0.00001. Okay, and then as it got to 0.001, then 0.01. At that moment, one Bitcoin reached parity with the United States penny. Okay, which means that one Bitcoin would be worth 1 penny. Okay, and that was in somewhere 2009, 2010, and we can look up all of the charts, but we kind of know.
Yeah, it's worth almost $100,000 right now as we're talking.
Okay, so one Bitcoin is worth $100,000. I do want to talk about kind of why people should pay attention to it. In case it's not a Ponzi scheme, in case it's actually the future of finance or the future of digital stores of wealth. I think we should talk about that. But for people who are listening that they own Bitcoin, they know that the chances of anybody listening that owns an entire Bitcoin, it's small. Not a lot of people do. If you take a look and talk to all of the people in Quincy, very few people own a whole Bitcoin. They own pieces of Bitcoin.
A whole coiner.
They're a whole coiner, right?
Yep.
Or like there's very few multi-coiners. There's I won't say names because they don't want anybody to know that they're a multi-coiner.
You're like Michael Saylor, right? I don't know if you follow him or not from MicroStrategy.
He's the CEO of MicroStrategy.
He buys them like 150,000 at a time.
Right. We could talk more about that too because just so you know, MicroStrategy stock is going down the more Bitcoin. Like lately, he's been buying Bitcoin through MicroStrategy and the stock price goes down. But let's just stick kind of to the basics here because when talking to our producer, Aspen, we asked permission. We're like, can we talk about this? we asked her. We said, do you think it's a good idea? And she said yes. So we're proceeding because otherwise we'd be talking about the LA fires.
Yeah.
But we're going to go right into it.
I don't know. I realize for some people, cryptocurrencies and digital assets and tokens and whatnot can be a bit of a snooze fest. But it's going to be involved in everyone's life, I believe, in the near future. So
I want to hear more about what you think about that, but I do want to tell you a very short story about my personal experience.
None of this is
technology.
financial advice, by the way.
None of it. None of this is financial advice. Don't go out and spend $10 on some stupid Bitcoin when you can go to Fantasy Draft and DraftKings and like waste your money on mindless sports betting. Don't invest in your future.
Yeah.
Just get your rocks off for the next football game. But which I already told you, our good mutual friend, and if he's listening, his initials are DAO. So that's the person we're talking about who puts way too much money in DraftKings and refuses to buy Bitcoin. So let that be a lesson to you. I'm going to make him watch this. But here's what happened to me. When I was a freshman in high school, the day or two after I stepped foot into high school, the internet went public. Okay? I did not know that at the time. If you look up the date that the internet went public, the actual consensus on it is August 1991. Mm-hmm. All right. So
you're that old?
I'm that old.
Wow.
I'm 2 years older than you. I'm 2.5 years older than you. But so I remember the great Pat Lask. If anybody is listening, shout out to Pat Lask at QND. She made us all go into, this is my junior year now. I'm skipping forward to my junior year.
And the portable building probably at that time, right?
Yeah, did you ever have her for a teacher? Mm-hmm. You did?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, she's one of the greatest teachers of all time. Also one of the the hardest teacher, but also you're going to learn the most. Mm-hmm. Pat Lask taught me how to write, along with Doc Preston and Susan Howell. Like unbelievable high-level people here we're talking about. Anyway, Mrs. Lask said, class, we're all going to go into the computer lab, and I'm going to show you how to do something on the computer. We get into the computer lab. She took us 10 at a time and had us read books when we weren't in the computer lab. And she told us, this is 1993, and she said, we're going to go ahead and teach you how to get to what is known at the time as an electronic mailing address. Okay. And I don't even know if she called it email at the time. I thought it was kind of cute.
It was Pegasus mail.
Was it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's what we used in Notre Dame originally.
Do you remember getting an email address?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you still use email?
Unfortunately, yes. I have multiple addresses I use every single day.
I liken the digital asset world, the move from money going from analog to digital, mm-hmm. I liken it to the rise of things like Bitcoin.
I saw an interesting study/article, I think it was just yesterday, that the adoption of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in particular is being taken on faster than cellular telephones. If you want to blow your mind with a statistic, I'll have to find that and send it to you after this. But
I do remember Don Johnson in the Ferrari Testarossa with the bag phone.
Yep.
In the 80s in Miami Vice.
Yep. And that was like a $18,000 phone or something at the time. That was like the cell phone debut, so to speak. And like no one had them, and like now everybody's got them. Even if you're broke, you got a cell phone.
Even if you're broke, you have a smartphone that has more power than all of the Apollo missions. Mm-hmm. During all of our space exploration. These things are more powerful than all of the Apollo missions.
Yep. And cryptocurrency is being adopted faster than cell phones.
Okay, that's interesting. So back when Pat Lask, Mrs. Lask, the great Mrs. Lask, pretty much forced us to learn about email in our English class. At the time, I thought it was kind of neat. I could sit there at one of these old computers. I think they were like Tandy 2000.
I don't remember that much.
PCs, yeah. These big, huge, computers. And we were sending messages back and forth to each other. Mm-hmm. We thought that was kind of neat. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, it is possible that if you never decide to get an email address, you might be behind the times. Mm-hmm. If you decide to never use a computer, you might be behind the times. Yeah. There will come a moment in time where you will think to yourself, this is a mistake that I didn't get into this. Mm-hmm. And this is how I feel about these digital assets, specifically Bitcoin, but of the rise of this other asset that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Can we go back to this article that you sent me about JP Morgan?
Yeah.
The CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, hates Bitcoin. So anybody listening that really doesn't even like this subject, I feel for you. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, agrees with you. But he likes XRP. Mm-hmm. He likes this digital asset that was built by 4 or 5 guys from Ripple in California. Mm-hmm. This instrument, this piece of technology that the SEC
has been hammering.
Banned in 2021.
Yeah, and if it doesn't happen, I think the appeal date was today. So the SEC had until, I don't know, I haven't read the news much today, but SEC had until today to appeal the last decision. And if they didn't appeal it, then that case is dead. But we'll see. Maybe that's why it's shooting up today. I don't know.
Well, when you and I first started talking about XRP, by the way, XRP, this is a digital asset. You can go to exchanges, you can go on your phone and go to the App Store, and you can look up crypto exchanges, such as Coinbase or
Kraken,
Gemini.
or even on Robinhood, you can buy crypto now.
You can buy it on Venmo.
Yeah, you can.
PayPal.
Heck, there's ATMs you can buy crypto at now. I've seen.
Right. Which I don't trust those gas station ATMs.
I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
I would never do that.
Yeah.
And do you hook up a digital wallet to it?
I've never been even curious enough to look.
There is a Bitcoin ATM at the corner of 18th and Broadway. In Quincy.
That's fantastic.
Right next to the video game slots.
Yeah.
So you see, like, the video game slots, those things are packed, full of people dumping their money into it, but nobody touches the Bitcoin ATM machine. Mm-hmm. I see a disconnect here.
Yeah.
So let's discuss price. Mm-hmm. Price is information. This is the way that I look at price. Back when you first learned about Bitcoin, you knew about it before I did.
Yeah.
You knew about it back in 08, 09.
Just because I was plugged into the tech community, and it was kind of it was a interesting topic then, right?
Yeah. And the price of it. So when you first learned about Bitcoin, what was the price of 1 Bitcoin?
Oh God, it was, like I said, it was less than a penny. It was fractions of a penny.
And now 1 Bitcoin, as we're talking right now, is 100,000.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll go any higher?
I do. I think before the end of 2025, it'd be $200,000 a Bitcoin.
Okay. Where do you see Bitcoin in 10 years?
I think it's going to top out around 2.2 million a Bitcoin.
Do you think it'll top out at 2.2 million?
Yeah.
And then go where?
I think it's just going to pretty much hover right there.
For how long?
I don't know.
So there are some people that believe that the deflationary aspect, the whole purpose of Bitcoin, is as time goes on, it becomes so deflationary that it goes up forever.
I mean, theoretically, yeah, that's possible. I think it'll top out eventually once all the coins have been mined, and they're all distributed in the world. I think it'll find an equilibrium, and it'll just sit at around $2.2 to $2.5 million a coin.
What does mining mean?
So that's kind of what drives the Bitcoin ecology as it is now. So every transaction that takes place on the Bitcoin network, there's basically a math problem that has to be solved to come to an agreement and settle the transaction. And the miners, that people hear about crypto mining all the time, and crypto farms and power consumption, that's where Bitcoin and Ethereum are sucking up a lot of those resources. Where whoever solves the math problem, I'm really simplifying this, whoever solves the math problem to settle the transaction that took place on the crypto network gets a reward, and it's a fraction of a Bitcoin. And that's a new, freshly minted fraction of a Bitcoin that comes into the market, and that gets pumped into the crypto chain. So every time there's a transaction, and every time that problem gets solved, those miners, and that's why it's so popular to be a crypto miner, because you're solving a problem using computers, and you're getting paid to do it. But once the supply is exhausted, that's no more. Interesting tie-in back to XRP. XRP doesn't work that way. All the coins were minted at once from the beginning, so there's no ecological cost to that. That's why they look at it as like a green digital currency or a green token.
And so what is the supply limit? So can we talk about supply limits for a second? How would you describe what a supply limit is, or why would you want a supply limit? Or does the U.S. dollar have a supply limit?
No, the U.S. dollar, I mean, anyone that's watching or listening to this podcast will know, like, you're going to the grocery store right now, and like what you bought 5 years ago doesn't buy that. You don't get the same amount of groceries for your money. Everyone has heard about inflation. So as the government prints more money, which is what comes back to your question, they can just print more money. They print more dollars out. So they're increasing the supply, or they call it M2 in like the financial circles, right? And as that M2 or the money supply increases, the value of your dollar decreases, so what you have doesn't buy as much. If we all woke up tomorrow and we all had $1 billion in our bank account, if you go to the store, eggs aren't going to be $2 or $3 a dozen because everyone has $1 billion. So eggs are going to cost $10 million a dozen because everyone has $1 billion. That's the way the market works.
And you would think that if people really cared about each other and there really was a loving God, it wouldn't be like that. We would just keep eggs and bread the same price. That's not how humans act.
Well, no, because there's a cost to produce, manufacture, and supply those eggs, right? So all those costs are going to go up with inflation as well. So for the farmer, whoever it is producing those eggs, it's going to, instead of it costing however much it got on it, once that cost goes up, they have to increase the price. That's the way it works.
So are you saying that there is no supply limit? There's no maximum supply
There's
limit?
no maximum for dollars that can be printed. They can just keep printing dollars, and like that's what they're doing. They just keep printing money. So there's no limit. But back to like where you're getting to, yeah, there's a finite supply of Bitcoin. There's only so much out there. How
many?
Was it 56 million?
21.
21 million? I couldn't remember the number.
Yeah.
It's 21 million. But like with and other cryptocurrencies are the same way. Like they're typically there's a finite supply of what's been minted, right? So, and that's what makes it valuable. And the true value, like what is the value of something, right? What is the value of this pen, or what is the value of a bar of gold? It's the value of anything is what people perceive its value to be. So the value of the dollar is wholly based on the full faith and credit of the United States government, which, I mean, you and I are kind of libertarian leaning. We don't have a whole lot of faith in the U.S. government. I mean, the federal government, for all their, maybe good intentions, they don't do a lot of things that efficiently or that well. So if I can put my value in something else that the government can't manipulate, that's the way a lot of people see it. And that's why Bitcoin's worth over $100,000 today.
So going back to this idea of further explaining kind of what Bitcoin is. So the U.S. dollar is divisible by 100, by 100. To prove that, you can take 100 pennies and shove them into a dollar, okay? Everyone will agree that you can fit 100 pennies, 100 cents into a dollar. The thing about Bitcoin, there is a finite amount of supply, and the last coin with this hard math that the computers have to figure out, all of the computers are doing all of this work because Bitcoin essentially is software. It's software. It's if you want to get really technical, it's a peer-to-peer, open source, decentralized protocol that acts as software. And there are 21 million coins, and the absolutely mind-boggling piece of this is that one Bitcoin is not divisible by 100, like a dollar is divisible by 100 cents. One Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million units. And those units are called
Satoshis.
Named after
Satoshi Nakamoto.
The person or group of people that built it. We don't know if it's the CIA. we don't know if it was made by aliens. We don't know if it's like Moses coming down from the mount with the chiseled tablets. We don't know. We don't know how Moses got like those words, I don't know what language that was. I'm guessing it's either Hebrew or Aramaic or something, some type of Middle Eastern language. He comes down from the mount, allegedly, with these 10 rules, okay? He comes down, just like Satoshi Nakamoto came down from the mount with this piece of paper and says, here is new money. And I am very concerned about this. I'm very concerned. Does this bother you at all that we don't know who created Bitcoin?
Yes and no. I mean, I guess the no part would be it's out in the wild now. It's been running for years.
16 years?
Yeah.
How long has it been? How long has Bitcoin been running uninterrupted?
I mean, is
it 08?
From a mainstream perspective? I mean,
no. Just like the network is just running before anybody knew what it was.
I first came on board or took interest in it in 2008. And the only reason I know that is because the Microsoft class that I was in was focused around 2008 server and Windows domains. So that's the only reason I can nail down even that date. So
that's fascinating. That is the year that Bitcoin came out. I think when this person that we don't know who it is, his name is Satoshi. He signed the white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto, and we don't know who this person is or this group is. My father says that he's very concerned that it's the CIA. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think some
totally
people think
could
it's Hal Finney or Elon Musk?
I mean, totally could be. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I mean, it's worth a lot of money now, and it's spurred all kinds of new developments in the financial world, right? And you're seeing trillions of dollars of inflow into it. I mean, can you really put that genie back in a bottle? Even if the CIA did develop it, then what?
Then what? That means that the electronic wallet that Satoshi shoved 1 million coins in, which, by the way, that wallet address, those coins have not moved the entire time that Bitcoin has been around. Satoshi shoved those 1 million coins into the wallet. They have not moved. I don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know what is going on with God. I don't know what's going on inside this crazy simulation that God made. I don't know what's going on with the drones in New Jersey.
There's a lot I don't know, yeah.
All of these things I just don't know.
Yeah.
These things are right in front of us.
What I do know is I can see, personally, I feel like there's a future in it. And I feel like there's financial stability for myself and my choices in it. So I'm just going to roll with it, and if I haven't put any more into it than I could afford to just wake up tomorrow and if it was gone, yeah, it would suck. But
as you're talking, I'm gonna get out my Apple calculator. So if you've got if one Bitcoin, I'm gonna type in $100,000. I'm gonna take that, multiply that by 0.001. Okay, that comes out to $100. So that is, how many Satoshis is that? I think that's 10? That's not 10 Satoshis. No, it's
100,000 per Bitcoin.
It'd be 10,000. It's 10,000 Satoshis. 10,000. 10,000 Satoshis costs $100. So check out this math. And Aspen, are you following us so far? Aspen asks really good questions. This is how we know how smart she is, because she asks questions like, "Oh, that's a really good question." If there are if somebody goes to an exchange today, and they take $100 and they're like, I'm not going to bet on the Notre Dame Ohio State game because I want to bet on Notre Dame, but Ohio State's probably going to kill them, so I don't want to lose that $100. Yeah, you would say, I'm going to put it into Coinbase, Robinhood, Gemini. Any exchange that you can load on and download from your app store on your phone. Take $100. This is not financial advice. I'm not saying to go do this. I'm saying people around the world are doing this, either through some kind of revelation of math and history and the security of the system, because we know that Bitcoin is a stable system. We're not saying it's not volatile.
Oh, it's super volatile.
It's volatile.
It's not for the faint of heart in that respect.
But it's definitely a stable system. It, as of now, it cannot be hacked. In about 4 or 5 years, that quantum Willow chip that Google's making, and I don't want to get sideways on this because I want to talk about this. It's possible that Bitcoin could be hacked somewhere in the future if these quantum computers can go in and hack the cryptography.
The banking system would be hacked years before that happened.
Correct. The banking system would get hacked years before Bitcoin would get hacked. Okay.
But you could, well, we can get into that later.
Well, because I want to ask you questions about your feelings on how hackable Bitcoin is, considering it's already been forked and all that stuff. But we'll get into forking. So you take this $100 and you buy yourself 10,000 Satoshis. Remember how we talked about when Bitcoin reached parity with the penny?
Yep.
That means one Bitcoin was worth a penny.
Yep.
If you would have bought $100 worth of Bitcoin at the time, you'd have thousands of Bitcoins. Okay? And then you've got thousands of Bitcoins times $100,000. You could have millions, billions of dollars right now. Okay.
Thanks for reminding me.
Thanks for reminding you for not buying 10 lousy dollars worth of Bitcoin. So the idea is this. Someday, a Satoshi, which is a division of Bitcoin, there are, as a reminder, there are 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin.
100 million or 100,000?
100 million.
Okay.
Positively.
Okay.
Okay? There are 100 million Satoshis. I'd stake my life on it. Almost. No, I won't stake any. I'll never stake my life on it because I like my life. But I'm pretty sure. Someday, when one Satoshi reaches parity with the penny, the price of one Bitcoin becomes $1 million, which means it'll 10x from here. And if you do the math right now, the price of a Satoshi is near zero. You have to put so many Satoshis together to make it worth anything. As a matter of fact, you have to pile 10,000 Satoshis on top of each other to get to $100. It's kind of like how much does an atom weigh? Nothing. Nothing. Zero.
Yep.
But if you put millions and millions and millions of atoms together and then millions of molecules together, you can get some type of weight. You can start to see the mass.
Yep.
In our lifetime, one Satoshi will reach parity with the penny, and when that happens,
I hope so.
it's gonna happen. If you can get to 100,000, I mean, it took. Just look at how long it took to get from a penny. Like, so from when a Bitcoin was worth less than a penny, when it got to a penny, it took less time for it to get to 5 cents, and it took a certain amount of time. And I don't have the historical Bitcoin graph in front of me, but just look how fast it got from during COVID. I remember during COVID what the price of a Bitcoin was. I remember going to my in-laws' house in Tennessee, and I was freaking out. I told my wife, I go, "You're never going to believe what just happened to me. I've been given a gift." Because, like when you hear about grace or you hear about the gifts that people get, some people are born with certain things, some people have to work for certain things. Like, so for example, if you hand me a guitar, I can't just start writing music like immediately. Aspen can. She can just pick up a guitar and write music. She writes her own music. That's not something that I was born with, okay?
Yeah,
the amount of work that I have to put into, the proof of work that you have to put into for me to come up with a song, I will have to spend days, weeks, months, years to come up with something that's good. Otherwise, it's cats, screeching nails on a chalkboard. But when this happens, it's going to be a glorious day. The move of money from analog to digital is what we're talking about. We're talking about blockchain technology. What is the blockchain? I recommend somebody look that up because I'm not smart enough to understand blockchain. But this idea of if you're not taking a look at the world, if you're ignoring, remember we were talking about Netflix? When Netflix stock is $10 and you think to yourself, I don't want to buy 10 shares of Netflix. When Netflix is $10, I don't want to put $100 in Netflix. I'm scared. I don't know the future. I don't want to take a chance. Look what happened to Netflix. Same thing with Amazon. Same thing with all of these.
I was in school when Google had its IPO at $88, and I remember wishing I had $10,000 in to put money into Google because I believed in it, but I was broke then. I don't know, something I did take from school that I can still hear the professor's words, and he said, if you don't like change, you're really not going to like irrelevance. And I can hear him saying that all the time. And it's so true in the tech world and with so many other things and with market disruptors like digital currency. I was like, if you don't like change, you're not going to like irrelevance. And that's really what I keep hearing.
I love that. It reminds me of when I knew Bitcoin was worth $100 a coin. I didn't like it. I wanted nothing to do with Bitcoin when it was $100. When it got to $1,000, I thought to myself, I do not respect that. You're telling me some stupid internet funny money that's really popular with the Silk Road and criminals and drugs, and people doing the wrong thing, laundering money through the cryptocurrency world, this dark and scary world, okay? I don't respect it at $1,000. And you know what? I didn't respect it at $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. So do you remember what happened the very first time Bitcoin hit 10,000? It made the national news. It was all over CNBC.
Yeah, my phone was blowing up.
Why?
Just groups I'm in, people I know. I remember I got out of bed that morning and I had a bunch of messages and all kinds of notifications. I was like, what the hell's going on?
I remember going to Thanksgiving in Michigan with my wife's family, and her nephew, Brendan Cavison, goes, hey Frank, you gonna buy some Bitcoin? You got any Bitcoin? I go, no dude, I don't have any Bitcoin. Do you? He's like, I got a little bit. I go, yeah, it's $3,000. It was $10,000 a month or two ago. Yeah. It went down to $3,000. I go, I cannot play in this market. I don't want I want nothing to do with it. He goes, it sounds like you don't respect it. I go, yeah, I don't. I don't I don't want to be associated with Bernie Madoff style things. I don't want to be a part of that. Barely have enough money to feed my family. I am not going to just throw money into this deep, dark, sinister hole of Bitcoin. And I remember when it went back up to 10,000 and went to 12,000, I thought to myself, okay, maybe I should put $10 into it. Do you want to know what price I respected Bitcoin at?
What was it?
19,000.
19,000.
The second time it got to 19,000, that's what did it for me. You're talking to a guy who traded currency professionally. Yeah. This is a guy, I'm not a very good stock picker. Yeah. I'm not. I mean, my dad is kind of famous inside our family for buying AMD and trading AMD over time. Nancy Pelosi is famous for buying NVIDIA.
She's a savant.
Better than Warren Buffett.
Yeah, I don't know how she does it.
She's amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
So we're talking about these stocks, AMD, Tesla, NVIDIA. Did you know that those stock prices have higher volatility than the price of Bitcoin? Fact. I'm not making this up.
I've never really looked at the correlation, but I could believe it.
If you want to watch, so Tesla will go from 150 to 200.
Well, yeah, I guess
down to 130. Elon Musk can be sitting on Joe Rogan smoking a blunt, and the price of Tesla will scream down. It'll go straight to hell. And then later on, we're like, okay, time has passed and we're healing.
I love seeing stuff like that, though. That's when I like to shuffle some money around in my account and pick up some on the cheap.
Well, Bitcoin wasn't cheap enough for you, no offense. Do you know what price you actually saw Bitcoin trade at before you got serious about it?
It was $930.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding.
That's when you started to believe? And you didn't call up your friend Frank and shake him, smack him in the face?
No one wanted to listen about it back then.
You know what? people listening to this podcast don't want to hear this.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't want to hear about it. They're like, thanks, Frank and Ryan. I'm so happy about your real hot stock tip. Because, once you start telling people about your hot stock tip, it's too late.
You can't trade. Bitcoin is not a trading option. Like, it's not something you trade. Like, if you try to jump in and trade really any cryptocurrency, that's bonkers. I would never do that. Like, I invest in cryptocurrency. That's it. I buy it and I sit on it.
You sit and hodl?
Mm-hmm. I have never, I'm trying to think, I've shuffled around between different coins, but I've never been sitting on whatever Bitcoin that I have, and when it went up, sold it, and then sat on that, and when it went down, bought back in. I've never done that. I've never traded Bitcoin.
I have, and I lost my ass.
Yeah, because that's why I've never done it. Every time I've thought about doing that, and I did the whole mental exercise thing. I was like, what if I did this right now? And I would write down what it was at, and then just play it out without actually doing it. And every time that happened, I would have lost my ass. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to sit on it and write it out.
I cannot trade it. I told you that the price that I respected was $19,000. I'm going to tell you a story about price and tell me what you think of this. But when it hit $19,000 for the second time, I was looking at the day charts, the week charts, and the monthly charts. And charting, when you're looking at price movements, when you're looking at volume and price action on any kind of chart, whether it be Yahoo, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, you and I are throwing out the names of these items, these stocks, or these so-called assets, right? But when you're taking a look at that, when I saw 19,000, I freaked out. My wife and I downloaded Coinbase onto my phone, and I thought that I could just buy some immediately, but no.
That was the worst time to buy.
Worst time, because what happened was, so for all of you that don't know this, when you go, if you've ever heard of Coinbase, you can go on your phone and you go to the App Store and you type in Coinbase and you download that for free on your phone like many apps. When you go to Coinbase to try to buy Bitcoin for the very first time, you have to tie your financial institution's routing and accounting number into that. And what'll happen is, of course, so State Street Bank in Quincy, which is for all the banks in Quincy, it's most like Fort Knox to me. Bank of Springfield's great. There's some really good banks in Quincy, but State Street Bank is kind of like the Fort Knox of Quincy. It's locked down. State Street Bank in Quincy is locked down so hardcore, and this is a compliment I'm giving to State Street. They're almost like waiting for an impending Chinese attack. They're waiting for the CCP to come in and reach in through the cyber wall and rip out every single thing out of the vault. That's what State Street is like, okay? So this is 4 or 5 years ago, when I'm trying to talk to State Street Bank, and Coinbase is trying to put, Coinbase is making these 2 tiny bitty deposits into my checking account. When I go to buy a Bitcoin, when I mean to buy Bitcoin, I don't mean a whole Bitcoin. I'm not rich. I can't afford a whole Bitcoin. Even when it was 19,000, I couldn't afford a whole Bitcoin. And I sure as hell wasn't going to put $19,000 and be a whole coiner at the moment. Because you know who does that? Psychos do stuff like that, right? And anybody listening, if all of a sudden you drop $100,000 into Bitcoin,
oh boy,
today, you are psychotic and you are rich and you've got steel cojones, and I'm going to shake your hand because that's
nuts.
That's nuts. But if someone does that, I mean, huge props. This is what I did. We drove to Tennessee, and I'm chasing the market. And I told my wife, I'm like, will you please drive? I'm the kind of guy that prefers to drive. I don't really want my wife driving me all around with the kids, me sitting in the passenger seat. It's not how I roll, okay? Is that misogynistic? Or is that a preference?
It's just a preference.
Yeah, I just don't want to be in the passenger seat. I drive.
Some people would take it the other way.
Yeah, I hope Aspen doesn't get mad about that. Also, Aspen told me to stop shouting out her name during pods, so I need to stop doing that. Air horn.
Frankie, when you acknowledge something that I told you not to do.
Yeah. We'll edit that out. I forgot. We'll edit it in post. So I'm driving to Tennessee, and I'm watching the price go 20,000, 21,000, 22,000, 23,000, 24,000. It's screaming up. Now, it did come screaming back down, too.
Oh, yeah.
So I bought back in at 19,000.
Yeah.
The point is, for anybody listening, is if you're looking at the price right now, and we're saying that the Satoshi, the division of Bitcoin, will go to a penny, that means that the price of Bitcoin would be $1 million. So that means you're getting in at a stock that you think is going to $1,
Yep.
and you get in at 10 cents.
Yep.
Can we talk about hacking, the hackability of Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure, we can talk about that.
Do you think Bitcoin will ever get hacked?
I don't think it will. Because, so even if you merge quantum computing with AI, right, you're assuming that the security parameters around banking and crypto networks isn't going to evolve with that same type of system. So the types of systems that are going to be used for bad purposes, right, they're going to be available to the institutions like the governments and stuff first. Bad actors aren't going to. There's only a handful of quantum. Well, there's like what 3 or 4 quantum computers on the planet right now. Most, I think, 3 of the 4 in the United States, something like that. Maybe I'd have to go back and look. But those types of applications are going to be utilized, I think, for security purposes first and foremost, because it's kind of like the new arms race, AI and quantum computing is right now. So what's going to happen is everyone's going to like arm up these countries, right? Because they're afraid some other country's going to use that power against them or whatever. So everyone's like building up their defenses as it's growing. So the same thing's going to happen with banking institutions and crypto networks along the way. So if it stayed as it was right now and no evolution or no additional safeguards were put up around it, then yeah, eventually it would become vulnerable. However, the crypto networks, the way they work now, are secure in such a way that traditional banking is far more vulnerable than a crypto network. So it's fun for people to write articles, and you'll see articles shared around media and stuff like about about Bitcoin or crypto networks getting hacked. Well, Visa or your bank or MasterCard, they're getting hacked long before a crypto network is, just because of how it's designed. So take that for what it's worth.
Well, we came up on a time bump, and so I know that we're about done here. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
We talked about Bitcoin and XRP.
We only got to like one thing off
one thing off the list. Bitcoin's worth $100,000. It's going to $1 million. XRP is worth $3. You can buy one token for $3. Probably going to go to 100. So it's not financial advice, but when that happens, I will. I hope you invite me to your mansion.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan Hinkamper. Thank you so much.
Yeah.